Eric moved to Davis in, I think it was about 67 or 68, moved to Elmwood Drive, and we were already living there a few months before that.
Eric studied clarinet with me after school. He would come to my apartment and I taught him clarinet lessons along with another really fabulous student. Craig Harris was also a student of mine then. And I realized immediately that here was a young man who, as we musicians say, played more than the notes. As a 12, maybe 13-year-old, he was in 7th grade. He was extremely musical. I found him to be very musical and just absorbed absolutely everything that I wanted to do, to teach him. And a lot of times we played duets at the end of the lesson, I remember. And a lot of times the lessons went on a lot longer than an hour because he'd hang around and ask questions. And you know, and now at the stage of life that I am, having taught for so many years, I realize more than ever how unusual that was at the time. And he was very, very, very musical.
So I first met Eric when we were both 12 years old. We moved to Davis the same year. Both of our fathers were professors in med school, and he lived backdoor neighbor on the same street. So we went to Emerson Junior High together, and then we went on to high school together. He was always in band, I was always in choir. And I don't think we performed together until high school. And he joined the madrigal choir, even though he wasn't really known as a singer.
The madrigal choir was a close group of friends. They did some touring together. They became close friends. In those days, it was only 16 kids, so they got to know each other very well.
We went to Fresno, and Fresno High School was in kind of a rough neighborhood, and the guy's magical costume at that point included tights, and Eric, I think, was the ringleader who said, "We are not wearing tights at Fresno." So all the guys put on I think they had corduroy jeans instead, so they wore those at Fresno, would not wear the tights.
He graduated from high school, I guess, and then he went to Harvard as an undergraduate, and then he went to the Music Conservatory in The Hague, which is a great honor, and he completed his studies there with the certificate that they award those who successfully finish. I believe he technically also graduated from Harvard. And then he remained in Europe and is still in Europe.
Eric has really an international following, and one of his fans who lives in Eugene, plays with the Oregon Bach Festival, was talking to Eric and said, you know, a lot of people are good at one thing. He said, but you have it all. He's written books for Yale on the history of the clarinet, so he's a world expert on the history. He builds the instruments, and he performs as a virtuoso soloist.
He adapted his clarinet so that it would play the deeper tones that were required in Mozart's famous concerto for clarinet. And the recording that he made of it, as I understand, was the top recording in Europe that year.
It's called a basset clarinet. And this instrument, I may be wrong on some of this, but there are, to my knowledge, none left. There were only museum models and pictures, and the research that Eric did and some of the other people did, and some of the research I participated in the 60s when I was living in Salzburg, was to try to rebuild, to try to reconstruct that instrument that was capable of playing 4 semitones lower than the modern clarinet. It's huge in music history. I mean, if you know anything about the clarinet, know anything about Mozart, to be able to hear that piece as it was originally intended was not really possible before that.
I know I have heard that recording a number of times on Capitol Public Radio here, and I know that he has been asked to perform that particular concerto in lots of different places. So he's sort of linked with that particular piece of music.
Congratulations, Eric. I've been looking forward for this for a long time. I'm so excited to be able to see you and your family, and I have so many wonderful memories of you, so congratulations.
So Eric, I'm probably sitting next to you at your table right now, but big congratulations. I can't think of anybody who deserves this honor more than you.
I've admired his talent and his skill since he was a teenager. And I think this honor is, if anything, overdue, because he's really earned it. And I wish him so well.